I was standing alone at the airport gate, watching my family walk away without looking back. My boarding pass was gone. My phone was gone. And my mother said, calmly, like this was nothing, you'll figure it out. You always do. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. But right then, something inside me snapped. They thought abandoning me would break me. They had no idea it would be the moment I stopped protecting them and started protecting myself. I stepped up to the counter again, my voice steady but tight. There has to be a mistake. I was checked in with my family. The agent looked at the screen, then at me. No ticket under your name. It was canceled 20 minutes ago. Canceled. Not delayed. Not moved. Canceled. I turned and scanned the terminal. My parents were already past security. My sister didn't even glance back. I ran after them, but security stopped me. Ma'am, you can't pass without a boarding pass. I shouted their names. My mother paused, sighed, and said loudly enough for people to hear, she's unstable. We can't deal with this right now. Unstable. That was the word they chose. I felt eyes on me. Strangers watching. Judging. I reached for my bag, no phone. No passport. My mother had insisted on holding everything together. I went to the help desk, explaining fast, desperate. Security stepped closer. Ma'am, you need to leave the restricted area. That's when a man's voice cut through the noise. Calm. Certain. Come with me, he said quietly. I looked up. Expensive suit. Cold eyes. No pity. He leaned closer and whispered, pretend you're my wife. My driver is outside. I hesitated. Then he added, almost amused, trust me. They're going to regret this. And for the first time since my family walked away, I believed someone. I didn't ask his name. I didn't ask why. I just grabbed his hand. We walked fast, like we belonged together. His grip was firm, steady, nothing hesitant about it. The kind of hand that didn't shake when things went wrong. Security glanced at us, then looked away. A married couple in a hurry didn't raise questions. Outside, a black car waited with the engine running. The door opened before we reached it. Get in, he said, low and controlled. I slid into the seat, my heart pounding so loud I was sure the driver could hear it. The door shut. The car pulled away. Only then did I breathe. I looked at him. I don't even know your name. He didn't look at me right away. His gaze stayed forward as the airport lights disappeared behind us. Alexander, he said. And right now, that's all you need. I crossed my arms, defensive. You don't know anything about me. He finally turned, studying my face like he was reading a contract. I know your family canceled your ticket. I know they took your documents. And I know they walked away without checking if you'd survived the night. I swallowed. You were watching. Yes. That's not reassuring. A corner of his mouth lifted. I didn't say I was a good man. I said I was useful. The car entered a private access road. Quiet. Empty. What do you want from me? I asked. He answered immediately. I need you to play a role. Publicly. Briefly. Convincingly. And if I say no? He nodded once. Then I drop you at a hotel, give you a phone, and you never see me again. I waited. And if I say yes? He met my eyes, voice flat. Your family loses control over you forever. That was the moment I knew this wasn't random. This was an opportunity. And I wasn't walking away from it. The car stopped in front of a private terminal. No crowds. No noise. Just concrete, glass, and silence. The kind of place normal travelers never see. I looked out the window. This feels illegal. Alexander answered calmly. It's expensive. Not illegal. The driver opened the door. Cold air hit my face as I stepped out. A jet waited on the tarmac, engines low, ready. I hesitated. This is where you explain everything, I said. He stopped walking and faced me. In 2 weeks, I have a charity gala in New York. Investors. Politicians. People who only trust what looks stable. And? My wife died 2 years ago, he said, without drama. Since then, my brother has been telling the board I'm not fit to lead. Too distracted. Too emotional. I stayed quiet. A married man, he continued, doesn't look unstable. A grieving widower does. I laughed once, sharp. So you need a wife. A temporary one. I crossed my arms. And what do I get? He didn't hesitate. A flight tonight. A place to stay. A new phone. $50,000. My breath caught. And, he added, watching me closely, I'll help you find out why your family abandoned you so cleanly. That wasn't emotion. That was strategy. That word hit harder than the money. What if I mess this up? I asked. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You won't. You didn't beg. You didn't scream. You adapted. That's why I chose you. I looked at the jet again. For years, I'd let my family decide who I was. What I deserved. I extended my hand. Rules. He took it. Of course. My name stays protected. I control my image. And I walk away the second I say stop. Alexander nodded. Deal. The jet door opened. And just like that, my old life stayed on the ground. The jet lifted smoothly, the city lights shrinking beneath us. I stared out the window, arms tight around myself, trying to understand how fast everything had flipped. Hours ago, I had no ticket, no phone, no family. Now I was crossing the Atlantic with a stranger who had just hired me to be his wife. Alexander didn't speak right away. He worked on his laptop, calm, controlled, like nothing unusual had happened. You're not afraid? I finally asked. He glanced up. I am. I just don't let it run the room. That answer stuck with me. A flight attendant placed a new phone beside me. Already activated, she said softly. I turned it on. No messages. No missed calls. My parents hadn't tried to reach me. Neither had my sister. Alexander noticed my expression. They're not worried, he said. They're confident. Confident of what? He closed the laptop. People abandon others like that when they already know the next move. The words tightened my chest. I told him about the divorce. How my parents had always called me fragile. Emotional. Bad with money. How every decision I made was questioned. They don't want me independent, I said quietly. They want me manageable. Alexander leaned back. Then expect a legal move. Something that sounds like concern. I swallowed. Like what? Control dressed as protection. The cabin fell quiet again. The engine's hum wrapped around us. For the first time, I wasn't trying to fix anything for anyone else. I was just listening. And something told me this wasn't about a wedding anymore. This was about war. Morning light crept through the jet windows as we landed in New York. My body was exhausted, but my mind was sharp. Survival mode does that to you. A black car waited on the runway. No questions. No delays. Inside the vehicle, Alexander spoke again. You should contact someone you trust. Before they do. I unlocked the new phone. The only number I memorized by heart was my cousin Diane's. She answered immediately. Joyce? Where are you? Your parents are frantic. I laughed once. Dry. Of course they are. What are they saying? Silence. Then, they told me you had a breakdown at the airport. That you were confused. Unstable. That you walked away. My grip tightened. They canceled my ticket. Took my phone. I believe you, Diane said quickly. But they're already talking to a lawyer. Alexander watched my face change. I put the call on speaker. About what? I asked. They're worried you might hurt yourself. Or make reckless financial decisions. Diane hesitated. They mentioned temporary conservatorship. The word hit harder than the abandonment. Conservatorship meant control. My money. My property. My life. Alexander leaned closer. Which assets? The condo, Diane said. The one your grandparents left you. The call ended. The car kept moving. Alexander broke the silence. That's why they left you. They needed a narrative. I stared ahead. So they made me look unstable. Yes, he said calmly. And now they'll try to save you from yourself. My voice didn't shake. They won't succeed. He studied me. Good. Because now we move first. For the first time since Paris, fear gave way to something else. Clarity. The penthouse was silent. Glass walls. City below. Control above. Alexander placed documents on the table. Your family will file fast. We block them faster. And how? I asked. By proving stability. Legally. Publicly. He didn't circle the point. I need a wife. Temporarily. I stared at him. This is business. Yes, he said. And protection. For both of us. He laid it out clean. 1 year. Public marriage. Full legal safeguards. My assets untouched. My identity controlled by me. And payment? I asked. 300,000. Plus legal coverage. I didn't smile. I didn't hesitate. My conditions, I said. Exit anytime. No emotional claims. No control over my money. Ever. He extended his hand. Agreed. We shook. In that moment, I understood something clearly. This wasn't rescue. It was strategy. The courthouse smelled like paper and power. No flowers. No guests. Just signatures and silence. The clerk looked bored. Do you accept? Yes, Alexander said, steady. I answered right after. Yes. The ring was simple. Gold. Heavy. Intentional. As we stepped outside, my phone vibrated non-stop. Unknown numbers. Family group chats resurrected from the dead. My mother's message came first. Is this some kind of joke? Then my sister, you married who? Alexander glanced at my screen. They found out fast. They always do, I replied. That night, the photo went public. Us. Married. Standing in front of the courthouse. Within minutes, comments exploded. She married up. Gold digger. She planned this. I locked the phone. Let them talk. They had no idea this ring wasn't a reward. It was a warning. 3 days later, the invitation arrived. Not by mail. By message. A family dinner. At my parents' house. The same house where I had been told, years ago, you're not welcome here if you can't contribute. I showed Alexander the message. He smiled, slow. Calculated. They don't invite ghosts. They invite assets. At the dinner table, everything was staged. Candles. Expensive wine. Forced laughter. My mother hugged me too long. My father avoided my eyes. My sister leaned closer. So, what does your husband do exactly? Alexander answered before I could. I manage investments. Silence. Forks froze midair. My father cleared his throat. That sounds significant. I watched them change in real time. Voices softer. Smiles wider. Questions sharper. They weren't curious about me. They were auditing him. And for the first time, I realized something powerful. I wasn't the one being judged anymore. They were. The conversation shifted. My mother asked about my marriage plans. Alexander answered calmly, detailing events, schedules, appearances. Each word precise, each story flawless. My sister's face tightened. You're making it sound real. I smiled subtly. I had to. Every glance, every word counted. My father leaned forward. You've changed, Joyce. I nodded, letting it sink in. Yes. I learned who I am when I stopped letting you define me. They tried to mask discomfort with forced laughs. I let them. It made them vulnerable. Alexander's hand brushed mine under the table. A reminder, we were in this together. Not as lovers, not as friends. But as shields and weapons. By the time dessert came, the balance had shifted. They were playing by my rules now, even if they didn't realize it. For the first time in years, I wasn't walking behind them. I was standing above them. My phone buzzed. Diane's message blinked, legal papers, emails, screenshots. Every attempt my family made to control me laid bare. I opened them slowly, letting the anger build. This isn't concern, I whispered. It's calculation. Alexander leaned closer, eyes sharp. Ready to act? I nodded. Yes. Let's turn the tables. Martin Coleman arrived, briefcase in hand. He scanned the evidence, then looked at me. They think you're fragile. We'll prove you're unbreakable. Together, we drafted counterclaims, fraud, manipulation, emotional coercion. Every word precise. Every move intentional. For the first time, I felt power where fear had lived. They had underestimated me, and I planned to make them regret it. Not with anger. With strategy. With undeniable control over what was rightfully mine. The doorbell rang. Elena's soft voice warned, "Your family is here." I walked to the foyer, calm, measured. Robert stepped in first, Linda close behind, Angela trailing. No smiles. No hugs. Only tension thick enough to choke. "You've gone too far," Robert said, voice low. "Marrying a stranger, hiding from us, this isn't you." I met their eyes steadily. "You call this concern? You tried to control my life, cancel my ticket, take my passport." That was deliberate. Angela's eyes flickered with something unreadable. "I'm done letting you manipulate me," I said, voice clear. "Your plan stops here." Martin stood by my side, files in hand, ready to prove everything. The tables had turned. Robert tried to interrupt. "Enough. Come home. Sign over the condo, and we'll drop this." I smiled slightly, pulling out the ultimatum I had prepared with Martin. "Here's my offer. Withdraw the conservatorship petition immediately. Issue a public statement admitting it was unfounded. In return, I won't pursue counterclaims for fraud or emotional distress." Linda scoffed, "You wouldn't dare sue your own family." "Try me," I replied calmly. Angela hesitated, eyes downcast. For a moment, a flicker of regret passed over her. "You're not the daughter we raised," Robert muttered. "I'm the daughter you never valued," I said softly. The door closed behind them. Silence settled. I had one. Control was mine. I sat at my desk and opened the laptop, drafting the formal complaint: fraudulent attempt to seize property, emotional manipulation, breach of trust. Each word felt like reclaiming my life. The court responded quickly. Martin's counter-evidence, medical records, financial statements, affidavits from colleagues, overwhelmed their petition. The judge dismissed the case, noting it was motivated by greed, not concern. No penalties were imposed, but word spread. Friends and acquaintances distanced themselves from my family. The condo remained fully mine. Finally, I could breathe, free from their control. With the court case behind me, I focused on rebuilding. The contract marriage ended as planned, amicably, without drama. I retained full control of my assets and public image. Alexander stepped back as our partnership dissolved, leaving mutual respect intact. I poured energy into launching my own event planning firm. Referrals from gala contacts gave me momentum, and soon corporate launches, non-profit fundraisers, and high-profile weddings filled my calendar. The Manhattan condo became dual-purpose, office below, private living quarters above. Success was mine, earned, not gifted. Years later, I stood on the terrace of my waterfront venue in the Hamptons, the ocean stretching endlessly before me. Hundreds of guests had arrived for the firm's flagship event, and everything ran flawlessly. I watched the waves roll in, golden light fading into evening, and realized that the betrayal I had endured had forged me into someone unshakable. Family ties had fractured beyond repair, but self-worth doesn't depend on blood. I had claimed my freedom, rebuilt my life, and surrounded myself with people who respected me. My Manhattan condo, once a battleground for control, now reflected my vision: sleek, open, filled with light. My company thrived, my reputation intact, and my voice finally heard. Occasionally, Alexander and I checked in, friends who had survived chaos together, not lovers bound by circumstance. I smiled, knowing that choosing my own path had been the ultimate revenge. The freedom to define my life, pursue my ambitions, and protect what was mine, that was the real inheritance. And for the first time in years, I felt completely, unapologetically victorious. If you've ever faced betrayal, been underestimated, or had to fight for what's rightfully yours, comment below and share your story. I want to hear it. Don't forget to like this video if you felt every twist and turn, and hit subscribe to follow more stories of courage, revenge, and triumph. Share this with someone who needs a reminder that standing up for yourself can change everything.